Okay, I call this meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. The University of Central Florida respectfully acknowledges that it's located on the traditional lands of the Ice, Appalachee, Calusa, Timucua, and Talcabago tribes, as well as the Seminole Tribe of Florida and the Miccosukee tribes of Indians of Florida. I hereby yield the chair to Chair Kaufman.
All right, roll call and verification of quorum. Chair Gaudio.
Paul.
Present.
Reed.
Present.
Olivia Smith.
Present.
Hagenbuch.
Present.
Casimiro.
Present.
Callis.
Present.
Ariza.
Present.
Capanos.
Present.
Lim. Pison. Sadvika.
Present.
Jane.
Present.
Sherman.
Present.
Danae Smith. Ali. D.
Present.
Malik. Orwela. Hamid.
Present.
Kaufman.
Present.
Licht.
Present.
McNulty. Rose.
Present.
El Hrak.
Present.
Fawcett.
Present.
Rickett.
Present.
Escobar.
Present.
Macadia.
Present.
Rodriguez.
Present.
Wanjan. Hassanein.
Present.
Phillips.
Present.
Green. Wynn.
Present.
Bonaventure.
Present.
Perez.
Present.
Alcuda.
Present.
Benesh. Candeloro.
Present.
Courts.
Present.
Jones.
Present.
Leon.
Present.
Matthews.
Present.
McRae.
Present.
Nursa Renda.
Present.
Leiva Gonzalez.
Present.
Simmons.
Present.
Teodorescu.
Present.
Varela.
Present.
Zivin.
Present.
Lipner.
Present.
47 out of 55.
Thank you. All right, take a look at last meeting's minutes. And is there a motion to approve last meeting's minutes? All right, take a look at today's agenda. Is there a motion to approve today's agenda? All right, open forum. Is there anyone wishing to speak in open forum? Seeing none, announcements from the student body president, President Blanco.
Good evening, Senate. I have a couple announcements from different people, so bear with me. Dr. Frame has signed Senate Bill 5717. Jorge will have that Title V updated with the bill and some formatting errors. The documents will also be published for the election on the homepage of the student government website for the duration of the election period. So if you have any questions about that, please refer that to Attorney General Altuna. Universal night distribution have been going well, so I want to thank all of our volunteers who have been helping. We will be rescheduling our first distribution that was canceled due to weather conditions, so stay tuned for that. The current CRT balance is $1,191.01 with a reversion rate of 1.77%. The current FAO balance is $26,269.44 with a reversion rate of 1.80%. I also hereby resign James Drinkwater from the Military and Veterans Caucus.
Or any questions for President Blanco? Seeing none, thank you. Next, we have announcements from the Supervisor of Elections, Supervisor Collazo.
All right, happy week 4 of the election period. Next week is declaration of candidacy period. So if you have not already, please submit your applications ASAP if you are running for re-election. Additionally, RSVPs for the presidential debate and candidate exposition are now open on Night Connect. For the candidate exposition, if you are a presidential candidate or a senatorial candidate, do not RSVP through Night Connect. You will receive a separate RSVP. If you believe you have witnessed a violation, please file an affidavit. Steps on how to file an affidavit can be found on Title 6, Chapter 608.13 through 20. The affidavit form can be found on Night Connect. With the enactment of 5717, the following relevant statutory updates take effect immediately. The elections times is now referred to as the voting period. Candidates must wait until they receive email notification from the commission before beginning active campaigning. All candidates, both presidential and senatorial, may begin campaigning on February 9th at 9 a.m. after approval from the Election Commission. Withdrawing an affidavit must be done through writing and directed to me, and an affidavit must be submitted to both myself and the student government advisor at the same time, and I will note the date and time of submittal. I am working with the Attorney General Altoona to ensure all agents have the most up-to-date version of Title VI by tomorrow. If you need any statutory interpretations of Title VI, please contact the Attorney General. Lastly, I will be here if you guys have any questions regarding the Election Commission's budget.
Any questions for the Supervisor of Elections? Seeing none, thank you. Announcements from the ASF Committee Chair. You'll all hear from me enough in the minute. Nothing to update here. Fiscal Committee reports. CRT Committee Chair Sherman.
Hello, everyone. This week we did not meet, but we got enough reversions to be able to fully approve allocations 57, 465, and 467. We're still waiting on reversions. Hopefully next week for 468 through 470.
Any questions for Chair Sherman? Green.
President voting.
Senator Green, President voting, so noted at 7:07 p.m. Any questions for the CRT Chair? Seeing none. FAO Committee Chair Lush.
Hello, everyone. This week in committee, we approved Fiscal Bill 5721, approved allocations 57, 129, 158, 165, 167, 168, 171, 172, 173, and 175. And we postponed allocations 57, 163, 164, 166, 169, 170, 174, and 176. After our meeting today, we have just over $17,500 remaining, and there's already $12,000 in our queue for next week, so about 2 weeks remaining.
Any questions for the FAO Chair? Seeing none. ORS Committee Chair Rose.
Last Friday, we approved 2 VPFs and conducted 1 post-funding review, which resulted in no sanction.
Any questions for the ORS Chair? Seeing none. Fiscal legislation, Fiscal Bill 5750, the 2026-2027 fiscal year activity and service fee budget bill. All right. So welcome everyone to the special session. I'm going to give basically a brief summary of, we had an info session before. If you were unable to make it, basically going to give a brief session of how the night's going to go, and then we'll get started right away with looking at the entities and the budget. So very quickly, we're going to start with just talking about what activity and service fee is. It is $11.67 per credit hour that we all pay, and it funds everything in student government, and it funds many of the agencies and departments here. And then it is a student government maintains almost full control over the fund, as the Senate President, Student Body President, and Dr. Frame are needed to move any of the funds from the budget lines. The fee must benefit the student body, which is one of the biggest things that we look for when the committee is looking at the budget. And the fee covers many things such as programming, student organizations, activities, services, salaries, equipment, and facilities. We have two different budget categories. One of them is recurring. This is based on the number of credit hours taken, and it is an estimate each year of what that number is going to be, $11.67 times however many credit hours taken gets sent to us. Then it is used for regular and occurring expenses and needs. And then non-recurring, which we will get to much later, is less consistent year to year and includes funds allocated but unspent in the previous year and fees collected in excess of projections. And it is used typically for one-time expenses or facility planning needs. So now what does this budget look like? For recurring, it is $19,264,489. And our non-recurring budget is $1,214,286. You'll notice that everything is rounded to the nearest whole dollar. We will not be using cents starting from 24-25 year on. Everything is going to be in rounded to the nearest dollar. We are working in a budget of millions. It is not necessary to keep track of the extra decimals. Entities, when they were submitted budget packets, were asked to submit it at no more than a 1% increase from last year. So they were given their 526 budget, and they could not ask for more than 1% of that. But they did have to account for a minimum wage increase. It went from $14 to $15. So anything that was cut was put back into their wish list, and the committee was able to look back and see what we can add towards the end of the meeting. And so if I say that something makes an entity whole again, that is what I mean is we were able to take the stuff that they had to cut from their budget, they put it on their wish list, we were able to give it back. That is what we mean by making an entity whole again. So now what is the job of the ASF Budget Committee? What do? We create a balanced and fair budget to present to the SG Senate. That is what we are doing tonight. We meet as many times as needed to prepare for the budget hearings. We met starting in mid-September when the student body president called our first meeting, and we've been meeting about every week since. And then we distributed our budget packets on October 31st. All entities returned them by November 25th, right before the Thanksgiving break. And we held our budget hearing, which was finished in 6 hours and 1 day. Many eyes, many hours have been spent looking over this budget, and it was unanimously passed in committee by the Budget Committee. Smith.
President voting.
Senator Smith, President voting so noted at 7:12 p.m. So now how the special session tonight is going to operate. First, we did a little review of what ASF is, just for everyone that was not able to make it to the prep session. But then we are going to start with reviewing all the different entity requests. We're going to debate and make amendments during this time. And then this is going to be done using the line number in column 1. If you have the budget spreadsheet pulled up, this is going to be done using that, not the pre-programmed line in Excel. It is a separate column for the line. That is what we'll be using to talk about the different line numbers throughout the bill. And if you have any amendments that you wish to make, please make sure you know where you're both adding to and removing from. And because it is in view mode only, I will write it in column I, which is the amendment column, and so that we can visibly see it before we vote on it. And then after we vote, we're going to approve just the budget lines themselves. Then we're going to work to review the proviso language, and we'll talk about what that is when we get there. But you'll be able to debate and make amendments during this time, just like any other piece of legislation that we see. We'll vote on the proviso language itself, and then we're going to vote on Fiscal Bill 5750 as a whole. All right, final slide before we start seeing entities. We're going to basically go through each one of their requests and what we approved at the budget hearing and any amendments we made this semester. And then after I introduce the entity and changes, we will have time for questions and debate. There's not going to be a set speech, question, debate time. It's going to be just a general discussion period. So if you have any questions or debate or comments or motions you want to make, you can make it at any time while we're talking about that entity. And then once there are no more questions or debate, you all will make the motion to move to the next entity. Anyone can make that motion. You just raise your hand, say motion to move to the next entity, and that will get us moving to the next one. That basically means that as a body, we agree with the budget that has been given to this entity. We are satisfied with it. Let's move on to the next one. We are going to see departments, then agencies, then student government. So please pay attention to what budget lines we are discussing because they are not necessarily in order on the bill. I just want to, it'll show in each PowerPoint slide what budget lines we're talking about. So like I said, no set speech, question, debate time. Motions can be made to move to the next entity whenever, but I will make the motions to vote on the budget, the bill, and the proviso language when we get there. When you're requesting to speak, please make sure to use titles and only speak when recognized. This is going to help maintain order as we do work through this budget. And then if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. We have a lot of people here that can answer any of the questions we have. We have a lot of the members of the committee itself and a lot of the heads and advisors of the agencies and departments sitting with us tonight. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And with that, do we have any comments, questions before we get started? Sherman.
I'm going to motion for non-committee members to speak for the duration of the meeting, those being any entity representatives and also members of the ASF Budget Committee.
All right, there's been a motion for all members of the heads of the agencies and departments and members of the ASF Budget Committee, and a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, that motion moves. All right, let's get started with the departments. The first department we are going to see is the Activity and Service Fee Business Office. What I do suggest you have open is not only the fiscal bill, have open the budget spreadsheet, and then there is a link to the supporting documents, which has all of the budget packets linked within it, budget packets and the presentations. So you can look over what they presented at the budget hearing and also what they submitted to us to review. So the Activity and Service Fee Business Office, the $100,000 budget stabilization fund was removed this year. That was the only change that was made. And then I'll give you all a few minutes to look over that budget, and then anyone can make a motion, comment, or question. Well,
President voting.
Senator Orwella, President voting, so noted at 7:16 p.m. Leon?
May I ask why the budget stabilization fund was removed this year?
Can I direct that to Fong? Or anyone that can answer that question?
Well, we already reached the $2 million in reserve, so we're just going to use that. We don't need to use this budget stabilization for $100,000 anymore. So it kind of helps you get more flexibility.
Sure.
Yeah, basically last year, the committee also needed to raise minimum wage from, I believe, $13 to $14. And so those $100,000 were reserved by last year's committee to help offset those costs this year. Now they decided, or this year, the committee decided not to do the same thing. So it's essentially those $100,000 are taken away in the budget this year.
Courts?
Can I ask a question and then make a motion?
Yeah.
So for my question, can you repeat what time you said that Oriella was present voting?
7:17 p.m.
Okay, perfect. And then motion to move to the next entity.
There's been a motion to move to the next entity. Are there any objections? Seeing none. Next up is the SG Ticket Center. The only difference is the operations line covers the cost to buy the tickets. Oh, this is me just making clear that the $3 million for operations is what buys the tickets, and all the money that is made from buying the tickets comes back in the estimated revenue. That's why the $3 million offsets for $54,162 in just OPS. Lusht.
Motion to move to next entity.
There's been a motion to move to next entity. Are there any, in a second, are there any objections? Seeing none. All right, next up is the Office of Student Involvement. There was no changes between their request and the ASF Budget Committee during the hearing. Courts.
Motion to move to the next entity.
There's been a motion to move to the next entity. Are there any objections? Seeing none. Next up is the Recreation and Wellness Center. There was also no change between their 2026-2027 request and what we saw at the hearing. Rodriguez?
Motion to move to next entity.
There's been a motion to move to next entity. Are there any objections? Seeing none. Next up is Student Legal Services. We increased OPS line 149 by $14,848 for a second front desk assistant. That was the in their wish list, and we were able to give that to them. Hamid?
Motion to move to the next entity.
There's been a motion to move to the next entity. Are there any objections? You withdraw?
I do.
Lipner?
May I direct a question to the head of the Student Legal Services?
You may.
If you're here, could you just provide a little bit more clarity on why that second front desk assistant was necessary, and just a little bit about what you guys provide to the student body?
Sure. So a few years ago, we had 3 legal assistants, and that was cut to 2 for budget reasons because there was a shortfall. So by having an extra student assistant, that means that frees the legal assistants to do more work. They don't have to be up front, picking up phones, making appointments, scanning documents and things like that. They can concentrate on other things to provide more, to provide services more efficiently. So that was the reason for the ask. Oh, and what services we provide? Yes. Okay. So we provide free legal services to UCF students who pay the activity and service fee. So most of the services, most of the students seeking our assistance, they need help with housing issues and traffic tickets. Those are 2 big demands. So over 50% of what we do is housing issues and traffic tickets. But we also can help with name changes, divorces, problems with credit reporting, debt collectors, filing for bankruptcies, just a myriad of things. Mm-hmm.
Lusht?
Motion to move to next entity.
All right, there's been a motion to move to the next entity. Are there any objections? In a second. All right, we are now there. All right, the final department is the student union. There was no change from their request to what we approved at the budget hearing. Lipner?
May I direct a question to the head of the student union?
You may.
Could you provide a little bit of clarity about the change in the estimated revenue from the 25-26 budget to the 26-27 budget? I'm seeing a pretty significant drop, so I'm just curious about that.
Sure. Yeah, happy to. Food court sales are cyclical, so we kind of always have to throw a dart at that, and they've been down a little bit this year. Just competition across campus and in the local community. And then a big piece of that is Pegasus Ballroom will be going offline for renovations. We're not quite certain of the dates of that yet, but it will be in this fiscal year. So we'll lose all the revenue from Pegasus Ballroom. So that's the biggest piece. Sure.
Leon?
Do you have any idea for how long it is going to be down, and also how long, what you guys are going to do with the space, like with the other ballrooms that are not equipped to handle that much occupants?
Yes, I do. Trying not to make a joke about panicking, but it's hard not to. It'll be difficult for the year. It'll be a challenge. I think when you see what we're doing, which we're almost ready to go public with, it's enough excitement, I think, to make it worthwhile. But we're going to be down for probably about 8 months in the ballroom, which is significant. I mean, you think about the number of times that students go to events in there, orientation, et cetera, et cetera. So we're making a plan. We have a pretty good idea of what the timeline looks like, but we're not ready quite yet to announce it. Probably in the next week or two, we'll be ready to announce it. We just want to button up all of the answers to those questions as much as possible before we go public and cause mass panic. We only want a little bit of panic, not a lot of panic.
Courts?
Motion to move to the next entity.
There's been a motion to move to the next entity and a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none. All right, that is all the departments. Now we're going to move into the agencies. Starting off with Campus Activity Board, we added $30,000 to concerts in line 24, and we added $5,000 to fine arts in line 25. These are all wish list items that we were able to add back. And real quickly, I will just add that the recurring wish list document is in the supporting documents, so you can see what was requested. Not everything on that document we were able to provide, but that is where we've got all of our information from. Rose?
Motion to move to the next entity.
There's been a motion to move to the next entity and a second. Are there any objections?
I object.
You withdraw?
Yes.
Lipner?
May I direct a question to you?
Sure.
Can you clarify a little bit about how the choice to add the 30,000 to concerts in line 24 was chosen for the ASF committee as opposed to another wish list item?
Yeah, basically at the end of basically going through without any of the wish list items, we were able to have the entire wish list pulled up in front of us, and we were able to start going through deciding how we wanted to add all of these wish list items back. I will say of the list, we added about 90% of it back to the entities. As for decisions, we just, the ASF committee brought it up one by one, and we discussed it, and decisions were made just on the fly as we were able to add wish list items back. And sure, if you want to.
Yeah, CAB was my entity last year, and I know even then they were wanting to sort of expand how concerts were done. Like they wanted to make that more of a mainstay of the agency. And so I don't think they requested. I think they actually requested a smaller increase for last year, but this year they requested a bigger increase just because they wanted to maintain the level of performers that they were able to bring, and just to make that a bigger part of what the agency does overall.
Gaudio?
So perhaps this was already gone over and it slipped by me. The revenue seems to be going down by about $10,000. So I wanted to inquire a little more on why the revenue is expected to go down and then squaring that away with the increased amount of money being requested.
Yes, there were conversations made towards the end of the hearing where we found out that they had predicted last year that they were making about $35,000 in revenue, but it turns out we're making significantly under that. So we decided to decrease the amount of revenue that they were projected to earn. And so in that case, it changed it by about $10,000, the predicted revenue. But that is why we lowered it, because they were not making that $35,000. Courts?
Motion to move to the next entity.
There's been a motion to move to the next entity and a second. Are there any objections? Do you withdraw?
Yes.
Lipner?
Could you clarify a little bit about what the impact and special events lines are supposed to be for?
Can I direct that question to?
Do you know if the entity is here?
Is anyone from CAB here? Gotcha. Yeah. Are you able to come to a seat with a microphone by any chance? Thank you.
So our impact committee is dedicated to doing inclusive events, and we also host speaker events in both Pegasus Palooza and UC Fest. our speaker event for Pegasus Palooza this last year was incredibly successful. We hit capacity. So that's what that committee is for. And our special events committee does a lot of our bigger events on campus that include Fright Night, Winter Wonderland, Glow Nights. Winter Wonderland's a really big one. We usually hit around 1,000 students there, and that's a big collaboration with SG and Nighthon and Late Nights. So, and that committee is dedicated to doing just like off the cuff events that don't fall into any of our other committees.
Courts.
Motion to move to the next entity.
There's been a motion to move to the next entity and a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none. Next up is homecoming. We decreased revenue line 45 by $10,000. This is what that was. This was the line. This is the entity we determined was making under. That is what we, not cap. It was homecoming. But still, everything I applied to what I said about cap is what I meant to say about homecoming. But that was the only change we made to homecoming's budget. Lipner?
Could someone from Homecoming provide a little bit more clarity about the distinction between Homecoming's comedy and concert nights from CAB's comedy and concert nights? Thank you.
Are you able to turn your microphone on? But yeah, there you go.
Can you hear me now? There we go. The main distinction is just that there are different times of year. Sometimes we try to cater to different genres than what CAB does, but otherwise they're pretty similar. They're both in the arena and bring famous artists.
Lucht.
Motion to move to next entity.
There's been a motion to move to the next entity and a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none. All right, next up is Knights of the Round Table. We increased their operations line 50 to $4,100 to make them whole, and we added $6,400 to programming. That was a wish list item, I believe. Lipner?
Hi again. Could someone from court please clarify where that $6,000 will be going and how it will be impacting the students? Thank you.
It will primarily be going to opening night. It's one of our biggest RSO showcases of the year. $6,400 was the expenses we incurred from purchasing the tents for the outdoor component of opening night. It supported roughly 50 more RSOs on the student union patio during the summer, so it was very, very necessary to provide them shade from the heat. With the loss of possibly the ballroom, we just need to be more self-sufficient to provide infrastructure for our students.
Hamid?
Motion to move to the next entity.
So a motion to move to the next entity and a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none. Next up is Nighthon. There were no changes to Nighthon's budget between their request and the committee. Leon?
Motion to move to next entity.
There's been a motion to move to the next entity and a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none. Next up is Late Nights. We increased their operations line 63 to make them whole, and we added $8,500 to their events line 64. That was a wish list item as well. Lipner?
Yeah, similar question for you all. If anyone from Late Nights could clarify where the additional $9,000 you'll be receiving from 2025 to this year if this budget gets confirmed, and how that will be impacting the students. Thank you.
The additional okay. The additional 9,000 that is being added to events line 64 is going to be used to better increase the quality of our events. Event costs are going up significantly, at least enough to impact us. We want to make sure that students have good events that they can attend that are worth attending, and we want to just meet a certain standard with what we do.
Courts?
Motion to move to the next entity.
There's been a motion to move to the next entity and a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none. Next up is the Multicultural Student Center. We increased operations line 73 to $3,000 to make them whole. We added $1,000 to MSc programming, which was line 74, and we added $3,000 to LGBTQ plus services, which is line 75, those last two again being wish list items. Gaudia?
A quick question regarding the full-time employees line. I'm seeing 2 full-time employees listed down, so I'm curious as to why the budget request is going down by $4,000 with respect to that line.
Is there anyone from MSc present tonight?
So unfortunately, the right person to answer that question isn't here right now, so I wouldn't be able to give. Oh, thank you.
The salaries listed there are actual salaries of the employees, so it's a possibility of change of employees and a change in rate of their salaries and or a change in the composite fringe benefit rate.
Lipner?
May I add to that?
Yes.
It's also entirely likely that 71 new staff and position upgrade accounts for that difference between 2025-26 and then 26-27. So, yeah.
Lipner?
Motion to move to the next entity, please.
There's been a motion to move to the next entity and a second. Any objections? Seeing none. Next up is the Sport Club Council. We increased operations line 106 to $19,985 to make them whole, and we added $22,000 to programs line 107. That $22,000 being a wish list item. Lipner?
Similar question to you all as I've asked previous departments and agencies. I'm seeing that 22,000 increase to programs. Can you clarify where that money goes and how it will impact the students? Thank you.
Hello. So our programs funding goes towards all our clubs. So that's the money that we use to fund currently we have 45 club teams that are under Sport Club Council. We're looking to add on right now confirmed 3 new clubs, but it's going to be closer to like 5 clubs next year. With this comes obviously like increased costs. All these clubs, we fund them for their travels, for their competitions, for equipment needs. So just the fact that we're looking to add on new clubs, and of course, like as we know, things are getting more expensive. So traveling has become more expensive for our clubs, hotel stays, all those things. So that's what the $22,000 would go towards.
Yeah, I'm very appreciative of that. And I've heard a lot of concerns about budgets being really tight for Sports Club Council. So I'm curious, do you think the budget will still be tight next year, even with this 22,000? And would you be open to getting more money? I know that's kind of a hard question to answer, but.
Well, I can tell you right now that majority of our clubs rely on their own fundraising. So we have teams who are paying upwards of $4,000 in dues. So like individual members are paying $4,000 out of pocket to be able to compete. There will always be a need for more money. I know that we have several teams who have not been able to travel because of lack of funding. So yes, if we can get more, that would be amazing. At the end of the day, my goal is to see our teams compete, to see them, represent UCF, to be able to go to these places. So the more resources we have to do that, the better that we would be, obviously. Thank you.
Orla?
What clubs or teams are being added?
Currently, we are looking at bringing back men's water polo, who they didn't re-register for a couple years because of poor, transfer of power. We have ice hockey, figure skating, who's looking to join the council. We had racquetball attempt to join, but they got rejected, but they're looking to come back. So they're making their case at our next monthly meeting. That's everything that I have off the top of my head right now. But there are several people that will reach out to us on a monthly basis looking to start a new sport club or see if they can like make their RSO join the sport club council. It's constantly developing. There will be clubs that get kicked out because they don't fulfill their requirements. There'll be clubs that join because they're new and they meet all the requirements necessary to join. But yeah, off the top of my head, I think those are the three main clubs that we're looking at right now.
Leon.
How do you make sure that the funds for each club is distributed equally?
So similar to how you guys do here, we host budget hearings. These take place in the summer, so usually around June, July. We'll have all the clubs prepare, their budget packets, their revenues, their expenses. We go over all their sponsorships, how much they pay in dues, how many members they have, and taking all this information, we get our program budget, and we decide where to allocate it based on need. So teams that we have a tier system. So bigger teams that fundraise the most, that have the most players, that travel the most, they will be tier 1 clubs. So they have a higher cap, a budget cap. And then smaller teams, so let's say our minimum requirement for a sport club is 12 members. So if their teams only have 12 members and they don't really compete that often and they don't really use that much funding, they'll be tier 3. So we look at their tiers, we look at how many members they have, how much they travel, how much they fundraise, and that's how we decide how to allocate the funding.
Rose.
Motion to move to the next entity.
There's been a motion to move to the next entity and a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none. Next up, the final agency is Volunteer UCF. We increased operations line 165 to $5,137 to make them whole. And then we added $2,000 to alternative break program line 166 and added $500 to large scale events line 169. The last two, again, being wish list items. Lush?
Motion to move to next entity.
There's been a motion to move to next entity and a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, next up is student government. So we're going to first talk about ASF committee. There was no change between the request and the committee's decision. Usht.
Motion to move to next entity.
There's been a motion to move to next entity and a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none. Next up is the election commission. We increased OPS by line 116 by $334, and we increased operations line 117 to 7450 to make them whole. The OPS line 116 increase was an amendment made about 2 weeks ago in January. Rodriguez?
Motion to move to next entity.
There's been a motion to move to next entity and a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, next up is the executive branch. We increased OPS line 121 by $1,009 to just fix a calculation mistake during the hearing. And the new budget line this year increased, and there was a new budget line this year of caucuses, which is line 130, and it increased by $85 based on we had an amendment back in January. We had a little bit of leftover funds, and we increased caucuses by $85 on top of the $2,500 that was reallocated from student initiatives to its own caucus budget line. Lusht?
Motion to move to next entity.
There's been a motion to move to next entity and a second. Are there any objections?
I object.
You withdraw. Lipner.
Could you clarify why you chose to eliminate the president-elect's transition fund?
If I'm being quite honest, it was money that was not used in previous years. It was just in case there was something within the transition between administrations, there needed to be something, but our advisor kind of told us it was mainly used for waters during interviews. So we just made the decision to cut it and reallocate the funding.
Rodriguez?
Motion to move to next entity.
There's been a motion to move to the next entity and a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, next is the judicial branch. We increased OPS line 133 by $4,498, which would compensate the precedent and IRC committee chairs. And we added $1,300 to line 135, which is operations, and that made them whole. Libner?
I'm unsure if the Chief Justice is here tonight, but if anyone could answer, I'm curious, how much would it cost to ensure that all chairs are compensated, not just the IRC committee chair and president chair?
Is anyone from judicial here tonight? No, but I can answer that question. It is about $11,000, a little bit over, and that would be at all 5 chairs at 5 hours. And currently, these 2 chairs are at 5 hours, 5 hours a week for about 32 weeks of the year. If we wanted all 5 chairs, it would be about $11,000 total, so about $6,000 more than what it is now. Courts?
And then I would like to add to that because I was one of the people who had a say in the 2 chairs as opposed to the 5. I think my biggest concern is I do understand and I do believe that everyone should get paid for the work that they do. But when it comes to the activity and service fee, I think we need to remember that this fund comes out of student tuitions, and we need to make sure that whoever is getting paid impacts the student body. So that was one of the reasons why all 5 chairs are not up there.
Just to elaborate more on that decision that was made, we had the Chief Justice came in with a presentation, and it showcased had all 5 chairs document how many hours per week that they worked, and basically based on the amount of hours each chair worked is how that decision came to be. Because some of them were more than others. Some of them clocked in 1 to 2 hours a week, and some of them clocked in close to 10 hours a week. So that's how this decision was made. I will say someone from judicial just walked in. If you have any questions for them. Lifner.
Would you like to elaborate a little bit on that question about the chairs and why they're not all being funded as opposed
That was a decision of the ASF committee to fund the president and IRC chair, but I can't tell you why they chose those.
All right. Rolla.
Motion to approve the next entity.
There's been a motion to move to the next entity and a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none. Next up is the legislative branch. So we increased OPS by line 139 by $276 to match the other branch heads. We added $200 to operations, line 140, to make them whole. We added $16,000 to registration and travel, line 141. And we added $4,000 to speaker initiatives, line 143. And the $4,000 to speaker initiatives was an amendment made last week, also, or yesterday. Lipner?
May I direct a question to the speaker?
You may.
Can you clarify how the $500 in speaker initiatives was used in the 2025-26 budget and how you would expect it to be used in the 26-27 budget with the $4,000 increase?
Okay, so I will kind of yield this to the pro tempore as he was the previous SBA chair. But before I do that, this year's speaker initiative budget is being put into the biannual events that we have for the Give Some, Get Some. The rest of it will be used in the spring semester's version of that. And then I will yield to Pro Tem Hamid.
Yeah, so I believe the $4,000 would be used a lot for just senator initiatives. I feel like, if you go through the SBA agenda right now, there's a few initiatives that would definitely be able to use this money. There's also been a lot of initiatives in the past that would really require money to even get them done. I remember last year, Senator Weiderberg wanted to do a phone charging station in the Union, but you can't really do that unless you have money to buy the thing. So there's a lot of initiatives that come with just buying items. So I think that these $4,000 would just go towards expanding our initiatives and expanding how we can impact the student body.
Courts?
And then I would like to add even more to that $4,000, that was not a wish list item, that came from the 1% variance, because even increasing OPS, since, we have CRT and FAO, it doesn't bring us to the 1%. So the 4,000 was added from that.
All right. McRae.
Motion to move to the next entity.
There's been a motion to move to the next entity. Are there any objections? Seeing none. So that was the final entity. And we will talk about non-recurring expenses real fast, and then we'll get a chance to look at the budget as a whole now that you have seen it all. So real quickly on non-recurring expenses, the non-recurring budget was decided to go to facilities condition assessment, so FCA needs, for the ASF Business Office, the Recreation and Wellness Center, and the Student Union. The entire non-recurring pot of $1,214,286 went into the ASF Business Office Projects budget line 186, And it is written into the proviso language that these funds can be used for all three departments. Even though it is in the one account to make it easier, it can be used for all three of them. The non-recurring items that we were unable to fund that were requested were just from the SCC, which was an outdoor scoreboard and disc golf baskets, and from the RWC, which was program equipment and field replacements. So because the entire fund went to FCA, these were unable to be funded. Any questions on comments about the non-recurring fund? Varela?
Can you explain what FCA does and what it funds?
Yeah. FCA is basically any like maintenance on the building, any general updates from the building, like fire alarm testing, things like that. I will also direct, I cannot give the best answer, so I will give this to Director Pavlonis.
So the facility condition assessment is a value based on the current replacement cost of the buildings. And so Student Union and RWC current replacement values of each of those buildings are over $75 million. And so each of those buildings require continued investment into the facility for it to maintain appropriate use, life safety issues, as well as other aspects of the building that need ongoing repair and maintenance. And so there's a calculation that's used. The $1.2 million is what's being funded out of the non-recurring budget. The actual amount of funds that is going to be contributed towards FCA for this upcoming year is actually closer to $3.4 million. And that will be, the additional dollars will be funded from the reserves in ASF.
Claudia?
I had a question regarding the RWC requests because those are program equipment field replacements. So that seems like kind of maintenance that does have to be done at some point. Things need to be replaced. So I wanted to ask, with regards to the timelines on that, how particularly necessary are those replacements, and would there be a noticeable, I suppose, impact of if they had been funded this year as opposed to putting them off to next year, the year after?
Is the director of the RWC, he's here.
If you don't fund any of that this year, you're absolutely fine. The field replacement, you're putting in $200,000 a year, $100,000 for each of the 2 sets of fields. At the end of 10 years, that builds up to $1 million. That's how much it costs to replace the 3 artificial turf fields for each set. So that's why we had traditionally put in $200,000 a year for that. But at the same time, FCA from the rec center is behind funding, and so that is a huge priority as well.
All right. Any other questions, Lynn?
President voting.
Senator Lim, so noted at President voting, so noted at 7:50 p.m. Lipner?
Yeah, could you provide a little bit more clarity on how this $1.2 million figure was calculated?
The $1.2 million, you're referring to the non-recurring budget, or so the non-recurring budget is money that is reverted from the previous fiscal year. From last year, any of that we refer to as reversions. Additionally, that would be factored into that if there is any variation in the projection of the SCH, student credit hour projections. So if the student credit hour projections are at 19 million and we bring in 19.5, then the 500,000 would be added to that as well.
Courts?
Could somebody please expand more on to why all of the money was put into this specifically instead of the other ones, just so Senate can have more of like can know why we put all the money here?
I can't speak for the committee in its decision, but what I would state is that the university's expectation is that we contribute $3.4 million towards FCA next year, it would deplete the vast majority of the reserves in the ASF fund if we didn't utilize the non-recurring budget, which is the $1.2 million.
Lipner?
Could you please clarify a little bit more about who funds the FCA, if it's solely ANSF funded, and how these funds get dispersed or allocated?
So facilities works with each of our directors, Jim for the RWC and Rick for the student union. They have regular meetings to determine pressing projects or that need to be planned for. And so that's actually done on a 5-year basis. So Rick and I had a meeting, as a matter of fact, today with facilities to discuss FCA needs for the student union. So those meetings occur throughout the year. Both Jim and Rick will provide feedback about any particular issues that come up. And so there's ability to make adjustments based on those priorities throughout the year.
Courts?
Motion to move to the next, wait.
This could just be the end of the non-recurring discussion if there are no other comments about non-recurring. Escobar?
Thank you. Apologies if I missed it, but why is the SEC's special project unable to be funded?
Basically, the entire non-recurring budget went to FCA, so there was nothing, everything outside of FCA requests we did not see. All right, Gaudia?
This is more of a financial planning question for the committee, because to me this strikes me as a cost that comes, it's going to happen. So I'm wondering why we're taking all this money and dumping it in now. I understand that you said that we're tapping into the reserves, which are partly for this, but could more money have been put into it in past years to kind of offset the sudden shock of this year by putting the entire non-recurring budget in?
I will say this was, I will give it to Director Pavlonis, but this was advised by members of the business office to be done this year, but I will also give it to whoever else can answer that.
So the way the university has looked at deferred maintenance and buildings has significantly changed over the last couple of years. Previous to this, if the air conditioning system went out, then we would have to figure out how to fund that as we go and out of reserves and contingencies. And so, and Dave can allude to this, but they have changed kind of the model in doing money. And the biggest challenges right now is when our buildings were new, nobody thought about deferred maintenance. Now our buildings are not new. And that is becoming a bigger challenge for the budget. And this is not going to be a one-time thing. There's going to be amounts every year that are going to have to be contributed to FCA for essentially ongoing.
Really?
I understand that no one can answer this because it's a future ask, but will we have to fund FCA to this level again in the future? And then follow-up question, if not, will we be able to fund things like the scoreboard and the disc golf baskets in the future, because those also do need replacing at some point?
I would say currently that the university looks at FCA in a 5-year plan, and that information has been shared with the Board of Trustees in those projections. So ASF is funding its FCA needs, just like other entities are funding their FCA needs as well through their budget resources. In the immediate future, it is anticipated that the FCA needs for the Student Union and Rec and Wellness Center building will continue at its current rate or slightly a slight increase based on the expectation of cost increasing at about 3% rate. But I do want to also point out that Jim had mentioned this earlier, in past years, we have funded projects like the turf fields as well as the fitness equipment. And so there is a balance of funds available to the RWC in those areas as well. And potentially for things that are maybe on a more of a nominal amount, potentially to make those types of requests into a recurring budget request as well for a one-time, expense.
All right. Any other comments, questions about the non-recurring budget? Seeing none, that is everything on the bill. So everything that is on Fiscal Bill 5750 or in the budget spreadsheet in particular has been presented. So the next thing, which we'll give it a second, will be to vote on the budget. So if there are any final concerns, Lipner?
Motion to move back to homecoming.
It's been a motion to move back to homecoming. Are there any objections? Seeing none. We are now at homecoming's budget. Lipner?
Could someone from homecoming clarify the purpose of the fireworks and how we clarify its safety purposes as a large university with not much space to launch them, in my understanding? Thank you. Yes, can you clarify the purpose of the firework display at homecoming and how we guarantee safety for UCF students and the surrounding area in the process?
Yeah, so the fireworks show is part of an event called Ignite the Night. It's in partnership with our alumni community. It's open to alumni, students, faculty, and staff, and it ends our week. Shane can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it originally stemmed from an alumni block party and then was moved to our campus in like 2014, 2016.
So to kind of answer your question it has grown over time, the block party has, but the fireworks show has been around for about 8 years now. From a safety perspective, just so you know, there is a lot of meetings, conversations, and plans that are put in place. We have to meet not only the university standards, but also the standards of the state fire marshal, which is why every once in a while you'll hear a test shot that goes off the morning of the fireworks because they have to just verify from a safety perspective. But you'll also have seen, if you've seen it the last couple of years, the homecoming committee is erecting orange fencing around the garage D and fencing that off because there is a perimeter that is required by law and a safety perimeter for a fallout to make sure that that happens. In addition, we have to have a fire unit on standby for things like that. So from a safety perspective, it has been well reviewed and gone through lots of reviews.
And along with the fencing that we put in place, we do also evacuate that garage. We put up the fencing the night before the fireworks show so that it is following our concert night on Thursdays. Typically the board puts up that fencing and then reviews it with facilities and landscaping. And we clear the entirety of the garage. And we also have a cleaning team that comes out following the fireworks show and the next day as well, just to ensure that there is no debris in the area to cause further hazard.
Two more questions, if I may.
You may.
First off, can you clarify exactly where those fireworks are launched over?
The fireworks are launched off of the top of the garage D, and then we have Firewatch posted over by where the global building is by garage G, and fire emergency team stationed around that area.
And then my second question is, historically, was this an event that was funded by alumni or was this always funded by SG?
This is an event that's funded in partnership. Homecoming works on the festival production, so we work with a company called Impulse Productions throughout the week, and we provide the staging and work with alumni who provides a lot of the entertainment and the like on the ground productions, and then Homecoming provides the fireworks and the security side of things.
To add to that, just so you know, I believe the alumni association is spending somewhere between $60,000 to $80,000 on the aspects that they do. We typically are paying for the fireworks show, and so all the other things that students are being able to participate in some of the activities and the band and things like that are paid from there. So they contribute to it fairly significantly.
Just kind of a follow-up to that comment from you, Shane. Sorry, Director Juntunen. Could you clarify how much on estimation in an estimation the Alumni Association contributes to homecoming in total, or is it just that 60,000 for Ignite the Night?
That is the only event that we do that is a collaboration event. All the other events that you see within this budget are student focused, completely student focused and student funded events. Alumni does have other events that they do, but that is geared towards alumni.
Lipner.
And then one final question for you all. Has there been any discussion about seeing any alternatives to fireworks due to a number of different environmental and safety concerns and just hazards in general, like a drone show or something similar?
I know that we've discussed having a drone show based on the success from the drone show that we had before we had DeRay Davis last fall, but to my knowledge, that's the extent that we've discussed it. We haven't seen any environmental or safety concerns in the last few years that I've been in this role, and we've held the fireworks show. Having the cleanup crew, having the fire marshal, and having the security that we have has allowed us to have a successful and safe show.
All right. We are still in a homecomings budget, but any amendments can be made at any time, by the way. Varela, then Escobar.
Is the motion to move back to the considering the whole fiscal bill, or?
Yeah, there's been a motion to move back to consideration of the entire fiscal bill's budget. Are there any objections?
Object.
Do you withdraw?
Motion to move to see section of the Campus Activities Board.
I will not see that motion. Escobar, what did you have? Did you want to add?
I was going to motion to move back to student government executive branch.
Okay, I recognize Escobar first, so we'll go there first. There's been a motion to go back to the student government executive branch. Are there any objections? Seeing none. All right, Escobar.
To anyone in the executive branch who can answer, with regards to operations, the increase in 6,000 from last year, I know that the reason was given for travel expenses. Could that be expanded upon?
Yeah, so we basically just moved money that was originally spending on like Big 12 on the Hill and the Big 12 conference and Rally and Tally. Those trips were originally coming out of Reserve and Admin Initiative, so it made sense to just put it under operations when there's already a category under there for travel expenses.
Escobar.
And then, yeah, for those travel expenses, how many people does that fund go to, like the different conferences, and like how are those people from the branch chosen?
Can you repeat that question?
Absolutely. So for those conferences that the travel expenses would be going to, how is that process for who goes from the executive branch, or how is that money allocated for each conference?
So per conference, we take people with the positions that are relevant for each conference, if that makes any sense. So for the Big 12 conference, we got representatives that could speak to a wide variety of what our services do. In addition to that, we also included the executive, judicial, and legislative branches.
Thank you.
Capinos.
Motion to move to the Campus Activities Board.
There's been a motion to move back to the Campus Activities Board budget. Are there any objections? Seeing none. We are there. Capinos.
I just had a clarifying question, if you can answer. With the increase of the budget, have you taken a note with the Pegasus Ballroom going under renovations for approximately 8 months? Did you take that into account when doing your budgeting this year?
That was not taken into account, and that's something that we're currently trying to work out. We're currently brainstorming alternative spaces because we do hold a lot of our Keystone events in Pegasus Ballroom, but we're trying to figure out opportunities to do those more on Memory Mall and other spaces like that.
Do you think that that would have substantial changes to the money that would be allocated to CAB for the upcoming year?
Not necessarily. I think there's a lot of room for us to do the same events that we do in the existing spaces on campus that don't include Pegasus Ballroom. I do think that it'll be more of a challenge for us to do those, but I don't think that that'll play a huge part in our programming.
Gaudio?
This is a question for you with regards to the meeting because I was a little thrown off by your initial explanation. We're proposing the amendments after we're done with the agencies and we're looking at the whole bill, right?
Yeah, so any amendments can be made at any time just because they could stay within the same entity, they can go without the entity. Any amendments you would like to make, you could just say where it's coming from and where it's going to from what budget line, and I'll add it to column I in the spreadsheet so that it is visible, just because I know it's view only for everyone. If there's nothing else, I will move back to consideration of the entire bill. Got it.
I'd like to move to look at the Sports Club Council's section again.
All right, there's been a motion to move back to Sports Club Council's budget. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we are there. Gaudia?
So I know it was briefly touched on around how much money each organization gets within the Sports Club Council. There's the different tiers. Could it be explained around how much an organization typically gets, whether it's in tier, each tier, or just on average?
So like I mentioned before, the amount of money that a club will receive from the SEC heavily depends on their activity as a club. So our tier 1 clubs, which are bigger clubs that are like ice hockey or equestrian, their cap is a soft cap of like $20,000. We don't have any clubs receive more than $15,000 currently. Then our tier 2 are capped at $10,000, and then our tier 3 clubs are capped at $5,000. But our tier 3 clubs usually, I want to say on average, are probably receiving between $1,000 and $3,000. So they don't always necessarily meet the budget caps, but those are the soft caps that we have for each tier.
All right. If no one else has anything else, we move back into just consideration of the entire bill. Gaudia?
May I propose an amendment?
You may.
I would like to take the money which would be going to the judicial branch's OPS for committee chairs and moving it to the Sports Club Council with their, which line was it? Sorry. Projects.
Yes, let me just pull up Judicial's budget packet so I can get that exact number. Operations. Okay, there's been a motion to move $4,814 from budget line 134 OPS of the Judicial Branch of Student Government to programs for the Sports Club Council line 107. That is in Amendment I. There's a minus and a plus there. We will now go into a speech, questioning, and debate on the amendment. Is there a motion for a speech, questioning, and debate? Read.
555.
There's been a motion for 555. Are there any objections? Seeing none. And a second. Seeing none. You have 5 minutes.
So I'm putting this change forward for a couple of reasons. So to start off, the amount of money that's being allocated to the judicial branch for their committee chairs, it's only for 2 of the 5. And I understand that judicial branch looked at how much time realistically each chair puts into their position, and that's how they came to this amount. However, if you look at, for instance, how we fund our committee chairs, our fiscal chairs get paid more hours than the internal chairs, but nonetheless, they all get paid. It does not quite sit right with me to fund some and not all of them. I believe that should be, we fund all of the chairs, even if they're different hourly amounts, or we fund none of them. And I believe that it would be easier to make it the none and take that money and give it to the Sports Club Council, because based off of what they put forward around how much money each organization gets, as well as the fact that they brought forward they want to add more organizations, I believe that this money would be better spent going towards our sports club organizations than to two judicial committee chair positions. I have a good friend of mine who was the treasurer for an organization in the Sports Club Council, and even though it doesn't seem like too much in the grand scheme, $4,800, I'm sure it would make a difference. And with that, I will yield my time.
All right, we are now in a period of questioning. Are there any questions? Lipner.
In your speech, you alluded to the potentiality of a scenario where we fund all chairs at slightly different hours. What hourly rates would you consider at that scenario to be fair?
So I believe that if that is a scenario in which the Senate wishes to give serious consideration and look into, I believe it would be best to consult the judicial branch first to see, again, how many hours are these committee chairs putting into, how much extra money would that take, and then we would have to decide where would we pull that money from, and would it be worth pulling that money to fund these positions versus taking this plan of attack.
Any other questions, Sherman?
Can I direct a question to the Sports Club Council representative?
You may.
So I know of the $22,000 extra that you got, not all of it went directly to new sports clubs. I know some went to marketing, facilities. I'm an athletic trainer. So if you were to get this extra $4,814, would it go directly towards new or existing clubs to directly support them, or would it be extra expenses, do you think?
So the money would go to clubs regardless. Those extra expenses, the ATs, the marketing, all of that goes to our club members. So currently we have, I think it's 10 high-risk clubs and additional clubs on top of that. I can't remember the exact number right now that require ATs at their events. So we have teams that will host events here, such as the lacrosse, men's and women's lacrosse, men's and women's soccer, men's and women's rugby, volleyball, any sport that you can think of that hosts on campus is required to have ATs at their games. Our teams supply their own ATs. They have to pay for their own ATs that can go for roughly $40 to $50 an hour per athletic trainer. Our goal with that, we've tried to set aside some money so that we can pay for the athletic trainers for the clubs so that they don't have to spend their own fundraised money and their dues money and their allocation money on athletic trainers. As for marketing, we do provide t-shirts and things of that matter to our clubs. If they are unable to make shirts for themselves, we have like general shirts, like UCF sport clubs, and we hand those out at meetings, we hand those out at events. So that's what our marketing expenses are. And then the rest of it would go to programs. So that would be included in the allocation that we give out to all the teams. But regardless, the money is going towards the clubs.
Right. Any other questions? Seeing none, we are now in debate on the amendment. Lipner, then Varela, then Campanos.
So I completely agree with Chair Gaudio that sports club councils need more money. However, I don't believe that we should be taking it away from the OPS funds for any group, frankly. On campus, students do so much work that is unpaid. To take away another job from a potential student feels like we're not supporting the students' needs first. And I would love to see other places where money could come from that is less student serving to be used for this purpose. So I'll be voting against this amendment.
As a ASF alternate, I was the representative for the Sports Club Council. And just in our conversations before the meeting, it was, clearly expressed that any money helps. They're getting more money for this new budget, but even that is pretty much a drop in the bucket compared to what they need. It's very expensive to travel, very expensive to get sports equipment, very expensive to rent out facilities. They're always going to need more money. So I would fully support, I think we all should all fully support funding them, to the most degree we can and getting money from wherever we feel like we can spare it. It's also important to recognize that Sports Club Council is nationally recognized. They compete in national competitions. They are a pretty prestigious organization, so they should be funded as such. In terms of where the money's coming from, I'm not going to comment on that. I think that just any money that we can give the Sports Club Council, we should. And that's just the sentiment I wanted to express. So I will be in favor of this amendment simply because it is giving more money to the Sports Club Council.
Captain.
While I do agree that the SEC should have more money to be allocated towards them, I do not believe that it is right on the basis that we take it out of the OPS from the judicial branch. To give some experience, I am part of the Lead Scholars Academy, and because of my position or where I am on the board, I get paid, whereas I have counterparts that do not. And I don't believe that on the basis that just because 2 chairs get paid and the other 3 do not, that justifies the means of taking the payment away from all chairs. I think that it's better to have those 2 paid than have all of them unpaid or have them all paid. And for that reason, I'll be in negation of this amendment.
We're still in debate on the amendment. Courts,
May I direct a question to Senator Lipner?
you may.
If we do not use it from the OPS line, do you have any idea where else we could potentially take it from or shift it from?
I do have a bunch of thoughts. I'm so glad you asked. So going down the spreadsheets, the first place that I would definitely look at is the Campus Activity Board. I think that their impact and fine arts events are really, really valuable, especially their impact events. However, there is a lot of overlap with comedy and concert events happening on campus with both Homecoming and CAB hosting those. So that is a big question mark in my page. Same thing with the fireworks. I'm not sure how student focused or serving they are. And I've heard a lot of complaints from students who live on campus and near campus about the sound and disturbance that it makes, especially for service animals, just regular pets, and then also for individuals who have PTSD and other forms of trauma. Additionally, looking at the royalty and production costs, these are extremely high in my book for something that is going to a very small selection of students. Obviously, production is more wide focused, but the $850 for royalty seems a little questionable when we're trying to like mince through funds. Looking next at OSI, there's been some questions about Pegasus Palooza and where money is coming from because there's a lot of overlap from other OSI related organizations that support it. So I would love to like kind of follow all of those money lines and figure out where that's coming from. Knights of the Connection has been dropping significantly, so I have a big question mark there about why that money is dropping and whether we're not seeing student involvement. As far as Sports Club Council, we definitely want to see more of that. Exec, there's been some questions about whether student initiatives are supporting the students directly or are more so just adding to that deluge of events that students can't keep up with. And so I'd love to have that conversation if possible. Same thing with passing of the gavel. That doesn't seem very student serving considering it's just for SG agents. So I do have that concern as well. Looking next at legislative, obviously, speaker initiatives is kind of amorphous. And while I do support the goal of giving money to senators like myself to support initiatives that we have, I question whether that money would be better served going to a organization that is meant to divest money. Looking next at the, that's everything. Thank you for the question.
Debate time has elapsed. Is there a motion to extend debate? Reed.
Motion to extend by 5 minutes.
There's been a motion to extend debate time by 5 minutes. Are there any
Second.
objections? Seeing none. Go Courts, Varela.
Okay, so that being said, I will be in negation of this amendment. I do believe that there are probably other places we could look at. I, again, will reiterate what I said during the beginning, that the committee, whenever choosing or deciding which chairs within the Judicial Council would be potentially getting this OPS funding, we looked at which ones were more student facing or which ones served the students. And with that, I just will be in negation because I don't believe that funding 2 as opposed to all 5 really needs this.
Varela.
May I retain?
You may.
Yeah, just I think, you know, to focus on this amendment, you know, the reason is it's like 4,800 number is because that's the amount we're taking from the judicial OPS. So if we are going to discuss taking from other budget lines, like it's going to be a conversation about how much we take and why. I think that's what we also have to think about, because it's not like we'll just take 4,800 from something else because why not? Like the reason it's this number right now is because that's what's in OPS. Just to elaborate on that, I also move to vote on this amendment.
All right, there's been a motion to vote on this amendment. Are there any objections? And a second. We are now in voting procedures on this amendment. With a vote count of 11 to 31 to 0, this amendment does not pass. Varela, then Kapanos.
May I direct a question to you, Mr. Chair? Yes. Out of all of the money added this CRT, that's left after being added the speaker initiatives, how much of that is just the 1% that basically how much of that is not recurring, which is just extra money we have from the 1%?
I'm going to direct that to Speaker Close.
So out of the money that was added from CRT, let me go back to where the legislative branch is. The 4,000 was what made us to the 1% after adding to OPS. So that entire 4,000 comes from the variance. And if you look, it has the 524,000. That's what I requested, and that was just to the 1%.
Yeah, follow.
So just to confirm, I think the remaining money in the CRT fund is just the extra to reach the 1% of what we needed.
Yes. Some of it was a wish list item. Not all of it, though. I can pull up the exact amount.
Yes, because wish list was 20,000.
Yes, wish list was 20,000, and we increased it by 24,000. But $4,000 was then taken from CRT to put into speaker initiatives. Kapanos?
May I direct a question to the representative Cab?
Yes, you may.
Out of the keynotes that you hold in the Pegasus Ballroom, what account do you take money out of to support that?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Okay. With the keynote events that you do, what account do you take the money out to support that in the Pegasus Ballroom?
Well, it depends on what events we're doing in the Pegasus Ballroom, at like what budget line we would be taking money out of.
Kapanos, yeah.
So you say that the keynote events in particular, like you wouldn't say that comes from one budget line, that comes from whichever directly coordinates to the events that you're doing?
Yeah, like we host Battle of the Bands in Pegasus Ballroom, so that will come from the concerts budget line, but we also host Speaker Night, which will come from the Impact budget line.
Varela?
I'm gonna make an amendment. Motion to move $5,000 from the registration and travel on budget line 141 from the legislative branch to the Sports Club Council programming on line 107.
There's been a motion to move $5,000 from the registration and travel account, line 141, to SEC programs, line 107. You have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Yeah, this is just to go back to the amendment because I do feel very strongly that SEC needs more money when possible. I chose 5,000. Inside I kind of want to do more, but I chose to stay at 1,000, or the 5,000, because it's just rounding up from the 4,800 that we had. That we seemed open to funding and just finding a place to take that money from. I think that the registration travel line is the most wise and most beneficial for all students, because one, most of that money came from having to raise it to meet that 1% reversion or 1% increase that was requested of all of the entities, as well as in CRT, $5,000 goes far less than $5,000 would go for a place like SEC. $5,000 probably covers a few allocations, like a very small bill. Like it's the amount of goodness that can be done for the students is much less if that money's in CRT, or just Sports Club Council, which can allocate it to their clubs that sorely need it, as well as I imagine with how much traveling they do, that I'm sure a lot of that money is going to be used for traveling anyway, right? It's been kind of a problem here, or a conversation like that should SEC get CRT funds because they're doing so much traveling. It's very, very expensive, and their funding can't fully support that. I think maybe taking just a little bit from CRT and adding to Sports Club Council, because they unfortunately can't receive CRT funds because of our statutes, is something that is just pretty wise and makes the most sense if you really want to fund Sports Club Council without harming any other student-facing activities. I yield.
All right, we are now in line for questioning. Are there any questions about this amendment? Gaudio.
Why pull this money specifically from CRT, which is money that is a very hot commodity, as opposed to, say, elsewhere in the budget, as opposed to even FAO, which we do see gets drained slower than CRT does?
CRT is already having a pretty large increase, and even after this amendment, it will still have a large increase. And again, like I said, this money just goes much further for a place like Sports Club Council than it would go for CRT. And again, like I said, because they can't get travel funds from CRT, I think that it makes sense to move some of the extra CRT funds we have. This is not even decreasing what would be next year's budget. It's still going to be an increase. It's going to be a slight less of an increase. In terms of being a hot commodity, we could give $1 million of CRT right now, and it'll still be a hot commodity. I don't think $5,000 is really going to move the needle that much for how much CRT is going to be able to give money out for. That might keep the CRT forums open for 30 minutes more at most. Like, it's really not that far going for CRT.
Reed, then Wanchen.
May I direct a question to the CRT chair?
You may.
Do you believe that $5,000 would make significant impact in your budget, or is that something that you won't see utilized as much as it would be elsewhere?
Yeah, so I won't sort of say how valuable it would be. I can tell you what it would sort of go to. Looking at how much we give per student, this would be about, I think, 16 and 2/3 students, say 17 students. Could be a graduate student who needs to go to that conference to graduate. Could be an undergraduate who's going just for development, but on average, that would help about 17 students for whatever purpose it would be that they would be using it for.
Wanchen.
President voting.
Vice Chair Wanchen, President voting so noted at 8:28 p.m. We're still in questioning on the amendment. We have 3 minutes left. Are there any questions? Seeing Wanchen.
Can you clarify exactly where the statement that it's going to go farther with SEC than with CRT when we're talking about CRT being able to fund 17 students is coming from, if there's actual data supporting that, or if it's just your general understanding of the two programs?
Yeah, I was the ASF representative for the Sports Club Council, and what's expressed to me is that any funding will be highly, highly utilized. I don't know the exact statistics of how many students are in each club, and how many students are in each tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 club, and that kind of micro statistics. But just from what I've heard about from CRT, that money, 17 students, really isn't a ton. The average sports club, I would assume, has more than 17 students, based on what it takes to field a team. And again, CRT, that money would evaporate in half a day, right? Probably less, probably a few hours. And Sports Club Council, with how much they desperately need it, that could send, two or three teams to a new competition. That could fund jerseys for teams. That could fund ATs for a team. Like that'll be, I think, better utilized overall for more students, more overall travel, and just giving them more resources that they sorely need. What I know is that Sports Club Council sorely needs more money, sorely needs more resources. And I also know that CRT already runs out of money really fast, and they're already getting a budget increase. This isn't even lowering CRT's budget. It's just making their increase from $20K to $15K, which again is not a big needle mover for CRT, but that would be, the $5K would be a big needle mover for Sports Club Council.
Any other questions on this amendment? Seeing none, we are now in debate. Any debate? Lipner, and then Wanchen.
Yeah, I'll be speaking in negation of this amendment today. Once again, I agree that Sports Club Council needs more money. I definitely want to give it to them. I just don't think that the registration and travel fund is where we should be taking it from. Every single year, CRT is trying to figure out ways to keep our money as much as possible and be as fair as possible, because students are basically running our budget dry by January, if not early February. At this point, we are out of funds. I think that there are other groups within even Senate to pull from that would be potentially more efficient and less missed if taken away. So I'll be voting in negation.
Margin?
I'm not necessarily speaking for or against this amendment. I just would note that it's basically doing the same thing wherever it is. It's funding largely registration and travel. It's just whether it's for sport clubs specifically or any RSO on campus that's not a sport club who applies first. As somebody heavily involved in a sport club, I know this would go so far for us or would go nowhere at all because it's going to cost us like $12,000 to go to one meet next week. So we could easily blow through that with no problems at all. And there are sport clubs that get absolutely zero funding. So it's up to you which area you think needs the funding more badly, whether it's all the RSOs on campus or the like 50 sport clubs that exist.
Debate time has elapsed. Is there a motion to extend debate time or any motion? Claudia?
I move to vote on this amendment.
There's been a motion to vote and a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we are now in voting procedures on this amendment. With a vote count of 14 to 30 to 0, this amendment fails. We are still in consideration of the entire bill. If anyone, any more comments? Lipner?
Motion to make an amendment moving $5,000 from the SG legislative branch's, Senate Working Fund to the Sports Club Council's programs budget.
You said it's the Sports Club Council's
Programming.
yeah. Okay, so there's been a motion to move $5,000 from budget line 142, Senate Working Fund, to SCC's programs, budget line 107. You have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I kind of alluded to this in my speech for the prior amendments, but I personally believe that FAO, while also very valuable and useful for its students, has a little bit more wiggle room with the money that they have been allocated in prior years. They still have money to give in this session, and I think it would be more wise to take from them than it would be to take from CRT. Thank you.
All right, we are now in line for questioning. We'll go courts first.
Can I direct a question to the FAO chair?
You may.
Would taking this $5,000 impact FAO?
Personally, I think so. I just did the math. That would impact about 360 students, although not as directly as CRT. I mean, a lot of events are put on through FAO, and if we didn't have a $16,000 reversion, we'd have about $7,000 left. So we're not far off from CRT with how quickly we run out of money.
Varela?
May I direct a question for the FAO chair?
You may.
What's the average amount of an FAO allocation, if you have that for us?
Can you repeat that?
What's like the average amount of an FAO allocation?
Of an allocation, probably $500 to $600, I would say.
You follow? All right. No. Any other questions, Akuda?
May I direct this question to the author of the amendment?
You may.
Out of all of the other budget lines that you had mentioned that you kind of wanted to look further into to see if, you could move money around in other budget lines, what made you choose specifically line 142?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still leaving room to pursue those other lines. I'm not saying that those aren't the case, but personally, when we were going through the previous amendment introduced by Chair Varela, it came to mind that FAO still has money. It seems like their allocations impact a smaller group of organizing students directly, as opposed to something like CRT or Sports Club Council, where students directly get benefits to go on a trip that enriches their experiences. And so that was my personal choice.
All right, we are still in questioning. Any more questions on this amendment? Seeing none, we are now in debate. Any debate on the amendment? Leon?
I will be voting in negation of this amendment because I do not believe it is fair to take money from conference registration or travel when it's already quite limited.
Wanjin, and then Lipner.
I just want to note where the activity and service fee fund, funding student activities is one of the most important things we do, whether that's through CAB or through funding RSOs to put on their own cultural or other events.
Lipner.
Yeah, just a note that this is coming from the Senate Working Fund, which impacts the FAO budget, not the CRT budget.
Reed, and then Courts.
I will also be voting in negation because, like the FAO chair said, this would be impacting around 300 students, which is a significant portion of students that do come in and request funding. I think in this case, 5,000 does go a lot for our students that specifically come in and request through FAO.
Courts.
Move to vote.
There's been a motion to vote and a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we are now in voting procedures on this amendment. With a vote count of 2 to 40 to 1, this amendment fails. Before we go any further, it is clear that we want to try our best to give SCC an extra about $5,000. Let's just try to figure out how we want to do that in our next amendment. I saw Courts' hand first. I'm going to go.
Motion to amend budget line 143 from 4,500 to 2,500 and move the 2,000 to, I forgot which budget line, but the one for SEC.
There's been a motion to move $2,000 from budget line 143 speaker initiatives to SEC's programs budget line 107. You have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Yeah. So I agree with the chair. It looks like everybody really wants SEC to get this. I really don't want to go back to the 500 for speakers initiatives because I do think that a lot of the things that we could fund with the proposed money would help students, especially the one that comes first to mind was Lightro, which would have lit up a lot of the dark spaces on campus, which would have impacted a lot of students. However, I think that 4,500 may be a lot, and though there are plans for what to do with that extra money, giving it back to the committees if the future speakers do not use it, I think that 2,500 would be beneficial, and the 2,000 could go to SEC.
All right, thank you. We are now in questioning on the amendment. Do we have any questions? Reed.
What have you used currently from the Speaker Initiative Fund this year?
Thank you for your question. The $500 is very limited, so obviously really not a lot, but a portion of the 500 went to the fall Give Some Get Some event, and the rest of it will most likely go to the spring Give Some Get Some event.
Wanjin?
This is a question more directed to you, if that's okay. Is there some way we can take an informal poll like of the Senate to make sure we actually all want to give SCC more money, given that the budget committee had already fulfilled their entire wish list back in hearings?
Yeah, we can do that. Is it just by general hand raise, are we looking to try to fund SCC? Okay, thank you. We are still in questioning on the amendment. We have 4 minutes left. Seeing no more questions, we're now in debate. Gaudio?
So I am against this particular amendment. Of course, we want to give money to Sports Club Council, but money from speaker initiatives, I do not believe that this is a pot of money that should be going to Sports Club Council. I do want to take from this pot, but I think it would be better if we moved this particular amount of money to caucuses instead looked elsewhere. I actually like the point that was brought up earlier regarding the fireworks, considering there were noise complaints regarding that. So if there's complaints from actual students that live on campus regarding that, I think it is worth us taking a hard look at that money. And so for this particular amendment, I'm against it.
All right, we are still in debate on the amendment. Barella?
May I retain?
You may.
Yeah. Again, I'm going to be, of course, voting in favor. I think, again, whatever money can go to school council, I would be in favor for. They need anything they get. I was hoping it would be more. So hopefully maybe something in the future, we'll see. But just want to bring up the important point that, when we're taking, it's important to think about like what we're affecting, right? We just heard the FAO budget or the FAO. The reason we rejected that was because it would affect over 300 students. The Speaker's Initiative was first taken from the CRT budget because we thought it would have a more maximum impact on the students. So, just think about, when we're moving around money and kind of like when we're talking about it, like what, even if it's a small amount of money, what would have the most maximal impact on the most maximum amount of students, right? And what organization needs it more, and what organization could maybe do a little bit without it, or maybe already has a lot of money to play around with. So with that, I'm going to vote.
All right, there's been a motion to vote and a second. Any objections? Seeing none, we are now in voting procedures on this amendment. With a vote count of 23 to 19 to 1, this amendment fails. Do we have any other? Gaudia? And
Pardon, you said 23 to 19 to 0 fails?
it needs a 2/3 vote. It got 54.76%. Gaudia?
Pardon me, I'm less familiar with the fiscal. Could you point to where the 2/3 requirement comes from?
Yes, under Title 8, there is a portion of the budget bill being presented in Senate, and it says that any amendments to the budget bill need a 2/3 vote. Courts, and then Lipner, Varela.
And also to technically add to that, this bill is technically from Senate terms being seen on third reading. So we're not seeing it on second and third reading. We're just voting on the budget bill.
Lipner?
May I direct a question to Director Jensen?
You may.
I know that we put on a drone show as a part of Frost Warning through SG this year. Are you familiar with how much that cost us as an organization? And do you know how much it may cost to do something similar for homecoming in the future?
So I can tell you that the cost associated with that, and that's not all the extra things, but the main cost to that was the drone show is built out at a $38,000 expense, but the company has given us a discount. So I think we were at about 20. We're about probably 22 to 24,000. I don't know that discount continues to be guaranteed moving into in the future, but that's what we paid. That's what it typically is paid for. And student government did not pay for that whole thing. That was part of that was paid for by other entities with Space Week.
Did I say something after Lipner? Did I say Varela after Lipner? Yeah.
Feel free, Mayor Riton.
You may not.
Okay. Well, I was just gonna say, I feel like we've hit a lot of friction on where to take this money from. I feel like we've already addressed the most inoffensive place to take money from. So I feel like if we can't decide to take it from judicial OPS or somewhere in legislative or maybe executive, I don't think it would be right to take it from other entities. So just putting it out there that if we can't decide to take money from one of those spots, we should probably drop the conversation and get on to passing the budget.
Leon?
I just want to state that I also agree with this point. I think that if we cannot get this solved, we should drop it to move along.
Wanjin?
Yeah, echoing the same point, we've already increased this budget by $22,000 or 8% this year. We really don't need to push it up any higher and sacrifice something else.
Lipner?
I'd like to make an amendment if possible.
You may.
Thank you. I'd like to move, pardon my time, $1,000 from line 143 in student government legislative speaker initiatives to line 130 in student government executive caucuses.
There's been a motion to move $1,000 from speaker initiatives, budget line 143, to caucuses, budget line 130. You have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so for those of you who are unfamiliar with the caucuses here in student government, there are 10 different caucuses that handle a bunch of different diversity and student interests purposes. And they each have their own mission, they each have their own student organizations that they're involved with, and they are all trying to host events to serve their student populations and the broader student body in whole. This year, we have been working with $2,500 that was set aside in ex provisio language last year, along with $500 that was graciously given to us by the student body, I'm sorry, the Speaker of the Senate. That money has been very much so used and is looking to be run through by the end of this term. And we are already having questions about what to do next. Where is our next money coming from? How can we continue funding our caucuses as we continue to grow and potentially look to add caucuses in future terms? This money is not necessarily functionable, especially when we're looking at relying on other partners to pay for things like name tags and other forms of necessary items for the caucuses to function properly. And so this increase in budget would go towards those things, but also be allocated directly to caucuses as needed based on a democratic vote of the caucus leadership committee. I yield to questioning.
All right, we are now in line for questioning on the amendment. Hamid?
Would you be able to explain more about the caucus's budget, how it was budgeted, what all of the money was used for each caucus, and what you believe this $1,000 would go to?
Absolutely. So at the very beginning of this semester, or not pardon, this semester, this session, when caucuses started up and the caucus leadership committee also started up for the first time ever at UCF, we decided on a democratic basis, on a vote based on all caucus leadership members, so that's all chairs and vice chairs of the caucuses, to split the budget up democratically, evenly across all caucuses. And then after that split was done for that $2,500, so each caucus got $250 each for all of their needs for the entire year. The speaker was gracious enough to give us that $500 that I alluded to, which has been sitting in a rainy day fund, which will be allocated as needed for individual caucuses as we decide on a democratic vote. So once again, this is all being decided by the caucus leadership committee as needed and goes to support each caucus where we believe as a group would be the most efficient and effective.
Lusht?
What are some examples of things that have been funded other than just being allocated to the different caucuses? What is the $250 gone to?
Yeah, absolutely. Some examples of this include pizzas for the Black Business Showcase, other forms of tabling merchandise for many different caucuses, ranging from stickers to brochures to other forms of like more large scale items. We've also partnered with the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Coordinator for our caucus takeover event, which luckily provided some items for us that we can use for other tabling events. But if that was not generously provided, we would probably use that money for more tabling items. That money, that additional $1,000 would also go towards name tags, other forms of signifying items for the caucus leadership members. Additionally, could be used to plan more large-scale events, something that we are simply unable to do with the $250.
All right, Varela, then Reed.
It's already required by statutes that each branch head pay forward their set amount of money for caucuses. So would the president of the Senate still be expected to pay for part of her budget or their budget after, even though they're losing this $1,000 to go to the executive's contribution towards caucuses?
To my knowledge, it is not statutorily required that every single branch head contributes a set amount to caucuses. If that's the case, then in this session, the judicial branch has given no money to caucuses and would not be relevant. And so I don't think that is happening. Even if it is in statutes, it's not happening in practice.
Reed?
Yeah, you alluded to the caucus budget paying to large scale items. Could you just give an example of what that might be?
Yes, absolutely. So there have been conversations about wanting to host more large-scale events. I know that the Black Caucus is currently working with other organizations to host a Food Truck Friday event. That event is only possible due to sponsors with other groups. The Sustainability Caucus, which I know a little bit more about personally, works very closely with the Arboretum and other RSOs on campus with larger, more national presences to fund a lot of our larger events like Earth Day and the Sustainability Block Party that's coming up very soon. These are events that would not be possible without these partners and simply is not feasible for certain caucuses without these very generous and charitable partners.
Hamid, then Varela.
Could I direct two questions to Chair Smith?
To who? Sorry.
Chair Smith.
Yes, you may.
Hi, sorry. So two questions. Could you tell us how much it costs to host the Black Business Showcase and how much it would cost to hold Food Truck Fridays?
Yeah, I can. So for the Black Business Showcase, what we spent in the fall semester was $200. We spent that all on pizzas. We didn't really have enough. Well, it was my first time being like chair, so I wanted us to spend it mostly for what would grab students' attention, which was food. We haven't been able to really allocate any of our funds to merchandise for our caucus or just anything else besides events, just because we have like $50 left in our budget. For the spring showcase that we have coming up on the 23rd, we only have $50 within our budget left, so that would probably be about 5 pizzas that we could buy, if anything. So currently we're trying to look at new ways that we can attract student attention, because pizzas probably will not be something we will be able to do for this showcase. And for Food Truck Friday specifically, we are very thankful that the other auxiliary sponsors will help us with it, so we don't have to pay for them. But that being said, we don't have anything else just for our caucus to draw students besides the food trucks being right next to us.
All right. Is there a motion to extend debate time? It has elapsed. Varela?
Motion to extend questioning or debate?
Are we in question? We're in question. Is it a motion to extend questioning by
2 minutes?
2 minutes. Are there any objections? Seeing none.
May I direct a question towards Speaker Courts?
You may.
How much money did you allocate towards caucuses this year, and which budget line did it come from?
500, and from my knowledge, it came from our operations.
Any other questions at this time on this amendment? Courts.
Move to debate.
All right. We are now. There's been a motion to move to debate. Are there any objections? Seeing none. Varela, then Sherman.
Yeah. Just for a bit of context, it says in statutes that part of the duties of the caucus leadership committee is to allocate a budget to member caucuses provided for by each branch head and the supervisor's elections. So each branch head already has, to contribute a certain amount of money or some money. I guess the money could be zero if some branches haven't done that. But given that that's already a requirement in our statutes, taking money from a speaker's initiative, it kind of feels like there's forcing our hand and kind of gives less freedom to our branch leadership. The money probably should be coming out of operations if we want to guarantee money is donated. But all you're saying is that Senate is going to be donating this plus whatever the branch head decides next year. There's already the stipulation that says the branch head should or has to donate money. It just seems like a better idea to give more freedom to the branch head that's elected to allocate what portion of their budget they feel is necessary than to mandate that donation right here and now. So I'll be in against this amendment. Sure.
Yeah, another concern that I have is be sort of potentially diluting the $1,000 because it would presumably be coming or be given to each of the 10 caucuses as maybe $100 to each. So whereas, for speakers initiatives potentially could be used on a more cohesive project, for example, Litro, this would, I feel like, potentially be used for more small scale things that don't necessarily benefit as many students, which is why I'll be voting in negation of the amendment.
Gaudia?
So a few comments I would like to make with respect to the Title 14. That's kind of a non-issue because from the time this budget bill passes to when the fiscal year starts, we have months to alter Title 14 to say, because caucuses have their own line in the budget bill, we should probably do that anyway to say this is how much money they get. There's not a need to allocate that money from other branch heads. So I don't find that particularly convincing. And likewise, with regards to cohesive projects, I think that's part of where the trust for the caucus leadership committee comes in, because just because this year they've decided we're going to split it up evenly, it doesn't necessarily mean in future years they're going to do that, because this is the first year the caucus leadership committee has existed, that caucuses have had a real budget to work with. And so I believe that going forward, there's more room for them to allocate where needed. For instance, giving more money perhaps to larger caucuses, to dedicating it to those more cohesive projects, especially considering this is being divvied up by a committee of people as opposed to speaker initiative money, which is at the initiative of the speaker. And so I place less trust in a single individual than I do in a group of individuals, particularly with regards to how that money is given to caucuses. So I believe that we should move this money.
All right, we are still in debate. Smith?
I will be speaking in favor of this amendment. In my personal view as a caucus chair, we do create cohesive events. We do create big events. It's just oftentimes we don't have enough money to boost our events, or we don't have enough money just to draw student attention. This is really the first time we're really working with any type of budget. So having a bigger one going forward will allow for us to have more prospective events, be able to plan them out earlier, knowing that we have a little bit more money to work with.
Varela?
Move to vote.
There's been a motion to vote and a second on this amendment. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we are now in voting procedures. With a vote count of 26 to 16 to 0, this amendment fails. It receives 61.9%. Varela?
May I retain?
On the bill?
On the bill.
I will make the motion to move to the bill. But if there's any more comments, seeing none, I'll move to vote on the budget line. So this is not the entire bill. This is just the budget lines in the Senate approval column of the spreadsheet in H. So this will be just on the budget. So we are now in, are there any objections? Seeing none, we are now in voting procedures on the budget lines. With a vote count of 40 to 1 to 0, the budget lines have been approved. All right, now that we have voted on the budget lines, if you all want to go back to the actual fiscal bill document itself, Fiscal Bill 5750, we are now going to talk about the proviso language really quickly. And for those of you who do not know, proviso language is the governing text of the document. It basically states how the allocated funding will be spent and any restrictions on it. If you'll notice on the actual document, underneath all of the whereas clauses, there are budget lines A through I, and these are the proviso language. The only line and the change from the previous year's proviso language adds line G, which basically is the line that says that FCA is restricted to, or not, the non-recurring budget is restricted to FCA of for the Recreation Wellness Center, Student Union, and Activity and Service Fee Business Office. So I'll give you all, is there a motion for a 2-minute reading time? All right. So feel free to read over the proviso language, and then we will talk about it.
Would the motion just be to vote on the proviso language, or is it the whole bill?
This will be just to vote on the proviso language. But if there are none, then I will make that motion when we're ready. And seeing that there is nothing, I will motion to vote on the proviso language. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we're now in voting procedures. With a vote count of 43 to 0, the proviso language has passed. Now we are going to, as long as we are ready, vote on budget bill or the fiscal bill 5750 as a whole. There is no third reading on this bill, so once we vote, we will be unable to amend the bill as it stands. So, see none, Bree?
Just a point of information. Have the amendments that passed on the spreadsheet already been transferred to the bill itself?
So none of the amendments passed.
Oh.
So the fiscal bill reflects the Senate approval column of the spreadsheet. And seeing none, I will motion to vote on fiscal bill 5750. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we are now in voting procedures. With a vote count of 43 to 0, fiscal bill 5750 has passed. Great work, everyone. Thank you all so much for dealing with that. I know that was a lot for everyone. For some people, dealing with all that fiscal information. Thank you to everyone in the back that came out. We have a few points of business left in Senate, but thank you all for coming out to be able to answer any questions that we had. We'll now move on to Senate Forum. Is there anyone wishing to speak in Senate Forum? Escobar?
Since we all look nice today, could we take a photo, like a group photo, outside the Charge On chamber after we adjourn?
Yes. All right. Senate deliberations. Is there anyone wishing to speak in Senate deliberations? Seeing none. Advisors report. Ashley.
Happy Thursday, folks. Welcome back. Another week. I'm going to be super quick. So, housekeeping items. First things first, I'm announcing to all of the groups that I advise, plus some, we are doing deep cleaning of our suite. So if you have things that are roaming, there is a random bowl in the kitchenette, right? Things like that. You have until next Thursday to get all of your items in order or they will be tossed, right? Me and Maite are going to do one good deep clean of the office and we're not putting people's items away. So if your item is not away, you're telling me that it's garbage and I will treat it as such. So we're going to do a deep clean. Me and Maite, we're going to clean the microwave for the first and last time on my part. So please make sure you take care of our space, right? Like people want to be able to microwave their food without feeling grossed out. People want to be able to place their things in different places. So let's take care and breathe fresh air in our space. Other things, just shout out to everybody that has been working so hard, ASF committee, and for those that have been helping me do these one-to-ones and get acclimated. Again, this week was awesome for me. Y'all don't know how productive I've been. People have been helping me update teams, channels, all that good stuff. So I appreciate you all. I won't be in tomorrow, so y'all are aware, because I will be here on Sunday with my judicial team. So I'm bouncing around. So if you're looking for me, just leave me a Teams message and I'll be sure to get back to it when I'm back on Monday. And as always, I'm not going to lie, I was not up on my day of, but if y'all want to do a really lengthy drum roll, I will get that for you. Okay, today, February 5th is National Nutella Day. So for my folks that are not allergic to tree nuts, I'm sorry. Again, I didn't filter through it. I'll do better next week. Happy National Nutella Day and grab a jar if you can. But that's it for me.
All right. Any questions for Ashley? Seeing none. Moving on, miscellaneous business, resignations. I hereby resign Imbasat Malik from Senate. Appointments, Sustainability Caucus. I hereby appoint Luke Paul to the Sustainability Caucus. Senator shout-outs. I'm so excited to do this. So who's got some senator shout-outs tonight? Courts, Escobar. We'll start there.
Okay, so first shout out to Senate President Kaufman and Pro Tem Sherman. And also shout out Sergeant at Arms Bonaventure. You're always up there, but I don't know. I like being sitting over here. Also, shout out to all of Senate. We were very passionate, and even if none of the amendments passed, we were still passionate. And shout out the ANSF committee. We did great. We did amazing. Also, shout out Pro Tem Hamid. No, Senator Hamid. You're doing great up there.
Escobar.
I wanted to shout out Senator Rodriguez. If you didn't know, we represent the social work major here in Senate, but earlier this week, we represented the social work profession at the Florida Capitol, and it was really nice. We had a lot of fun, great time advocating for social work in the state.
All right, let's do Captainess, then Hamid.
I want to shout out all the agency heads and department heads that are still here. Thank you guys so much for coming out and staying for the meeting. Really appreciate you.
Hamid.
Shout out Senate President Kaufman, Pro Tempore Sherman. You guys are doing really great. Shout out Jimmy, obviously. Shout out Nick. He's been a great seatmate. I'm not used to being here. I feel the stairs behind me, and I'm really uncomfortable. And also, shout out ANSF. And also, shout out everyone. We did really good.
I say anyone next? Or Courts, then Rose. Yeah.
Okay, well,
Courts
shout out to my ELA. My ELA has been stuck in Canada. She was stuck there. They finally let her out. It was hard. It was hard to do life without her, especially in Senate. So shout out to her. I've always appreciated you, but now I have a newfound appreciation. You never know what you have until you don't have it anymore.
Rose.
Shout out to the IM soccer team for an incredible performance. We did not take home the win, but I think pound for pound, we were the strongest team out there. So give it up for them.
Anyone else? Sadvika?
Shout out to Sherman and Kaufman because I send them really long, lengthy questions and they always answer all of them. So I really do appreciate your help with the funding process when I'm dealing with other clubs and RSOs.
Of course. Lipner?
Yeah, I can't have two of the fiscal pros be shout out and not shout out the third. So Luce, thank you for all of the hard work that you do as a fiscal chair. I don't want to act like I don't appreciate all of what FAO does. Also, oh my God, Rose, sorry. You're also equally as important and we appreciate you so much. Also shout out to all of ENA. You guys are wonderful and I appreciate all of your patience as I get into that new role. So yeah, thank you.
All right, I'll do Green, Reed, Zivin, and then Courts for a third time. Green.
I do this every week, but I feel like it's in order now. Shout out to ORS. Love you guys. I'll be in committee tomorrow.
Reed.
Shout out my boss, Speaker Quartz. Big fan. Really did miss you this week while the Canadians held me captive. Also, shout out SBA chair for bringing so much whimsy. Always. I really appreciate all the work that you do.
Zivin.
Shout out new Vice Chair Matthews. I'm so proud of you. You did it.
Courts for a third time.
Thank you.
Of course.
Shout out to the two SLCers in the back. I see you. Hey guys. I think I'm good now.
Okay. All right. If that's it. I was gonna say shout out to all of you because I was very scared coming up here that I was gonna just start forgetting names, but I didn't. So I locked in on that. But thank you all for being so understanding. Sherman.
Shout out to Pro Tem Kaufman, Chair Kaufman, Deputy Pro Tem for Kaufman for a lot of work. That was not.
he's put in a lot of work, and as he did really great. So yeah.
Nice. Thanks, Sherman. Lipner.
Also, shout out Chair Kaufman, first and maybe only time we'll get to say that. So, yay.
Yeah. All right. Oh, was there? All right. We'll end the center of shout outs there. That was a good way to end it. Next, moving on. Of course, can't have Hamid's Habitat this week, so we had Sherman's Savannah this week.
Might need to workshop that name. But this is my dog, Winnie. She is a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, 2 years old. She loves to ride in the car, but she hates going outside if it is cold.
That's a very cute picture. All right. And that's it. So, courts.
Motion to adjourn this meeting pending. Motion to adjourn this meeting pending final roll call.
There's been a motion to adjourn this meeting pending final roll call. Are there any objections? Seeing none, Chair Gaudio, please remember to remain quiet while Chair Gaudio does roll call.
Paul.
Present.
Reed.
Present.
Olivia Smith.
Present.
Hagenbuch.
Present.
Casimiro.
Present.
Callis. Ariza.
Present.
Cabanos.
Present.
Lim.
Present.
Pison. Savika.
Present.
Jane.
Present.
Sherman.
Present.
Danae Smith.
Present.
Ali. D.
Present.
Malik. Orwella.
Present.
Hamid.
Present.
Kaufman.
Present.
Licht.
Present.
McNulty. Rocasa. Rose.
Present.
El Hra. Fawcett. Riggett. Escobar.
Present.
Macadia.
Present.
Rodriguez.
Present.
Wanjid.
Present.
Hassanin.
Present.
Phillips.
Present.
Green.
Present.
Wynn.
Present.
Bonaventure.
Present.
Perez.
Present.
Okuda.
Present.
Banesh. Candeloro.
Present.
Courts.
Present.
Jones.
Present.
Leon.
Present.
Matthews.
Present.
McGray.
Present.
Nursumadevra. Brenda.
Present.
Leiva Gonzalez.
Present.
Simmons.
Present.
Teodorescu.
Present.
Varela.
Present.
Zivin.
Present.
Lipner.
Present.
49 out of 55.
I adjourn this meeting at 9:14 p.m. Please remember to head right outside for our group picture.
And don't forget, we have karaoke tomorrow at 6. I'm so excited to see you guys there.